Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and as we continue our 5-part series on family, today we will talk about family enmeshment. In family theory counseling, when two or more family members are so interwoven in their lives socially, behaviorally, mentally, that there are no abilities for them to function independent of one another, that is called enmeshment. Salvador McClure in 1978 noted that families where the individual self is not permitted, individualism becomes lost in the system of the family, and that family system is a poorly functioning entity. Enmeshment is the same as codependency, which psychologically controls, regulates, and robs each individual of self-identity. Enmeshment is not to be confused, however, with closeness, which implies a reciprocal relationship. Many times people will use the term we are soulmates, or we're bosom buddies, or we're like frickin' frat. And I understand all of the language, but enmeshment takes away the self-identity and it moves a person in a very unhealthy manner into a oneness. An individual is enmeshed when they allow others to use them, or a better term would be to misuse them for their own personal identity's sake, for their own personal valuation, for their own personal self-worth, for their own personal stability, and for their own personal definition of their purpose rather than the individual's purpose, and for their own personal well-being rather than the well-being of the other individuals within the family system. Enmeshment does not allow a person to have self-value, self-power, self-independency, or self-personal empowerment, or even self-personal healthy relationships with other people. And sadly, enmeshed people cannot have a healthy relationship even with themselves. Enmeshment, when you look at the individual that's caught up, or the individuals that are caught up in it, almost without exception have what is known as an undeveloped self. In essence, when we talk about the theories of growth development in terms of Erik Erikson's growth process from infancy to young adulthood into adulthood, whenever a person allows himself to be enmeshed into another person, it is an automatic signal that the individual has an undeveloped self. Enmeshment individuals have no concept of where they are going, what they would like to be, what makes them happy, or even who they really are. Their life becomes unhealthily interwoven with the life of another person that is as unhealthy as they are. Subjugated individuals are compliant, but quite unhappy because they feel as if they are responding strictly to the desires of someone else. These individuals do not experience closeness, but rather resentment and hostility and desperation. Let me just expand on what I just shared with you. They are subjugated, or they are under the control, and it appears to be voluntarily, of the will of another. They are simply compliant, but they are miserable. They are the most unhappy people in the world. they cannot experience true closeness, but they deep down inside, they are resentful of the person, they are hostile, and they are desperate because they never are permitted to wrestle with, who am I? What are my real goals in life? What are my true aspirations? What really brings joy inside of me? There are 8 standard traits of most enmeshed families. There's no diversity among the individuals. There's poor or no family communication. They can walk around in a family system and basically never utter a word, and yet each person knows how to respond to the other almost in lockstep. There's the perfectionism that really is driven by unrealistic expectations. People in that enmeshed environment understand that the expectations are not normal. There is abuse. Typically, it is a trickle-down type abuse, manner from the primary abuser or the primary enmeshed controller through the secondary, which is typically a second parent, down to the oldest child or the youngest child or the middle child. And you'll see everybody just kind of taking their place and become the receivers of the abuse, and the person who's regulating that is basically silent because everyone knows what the expectations, although unhealthy, really are. There's the constant heated conflict. Conflict within a family system is normal, but there is an abnormality about the constant heated conflict. And this is driven because the person who is really enmeshed or regulating the enmeshment crosses boundaries, have no real healthy expectations, and the other family members simply make every effort to comply to the enmeshed family system. There's a fear of arousal that ensures unpredictable behaviors in enmeshed families. Typically, this fear is malicious and is orchestrated. It's designed to keep everyone on edge and everyone making every effort to comply with whatever the unhealthy expectations of the enmeshment really are. There's control by exerting unreasonable will over other family members without empathy, without love, without care. There's no love in an enmeshed family, and yet the other family members want to love. There's the addiction within an enmeshed family. Not drug or alcohol addiction necessarily, but addiction to pain, addiction to anger, addiction to hate, addiction to revenge, addiction to rebellion, addiction to confusion, addiction to control. Somebody in that family system has a sickness, a drive to pain, to anger, and that's the way life has been for them over time. In the book of 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2, verse number 11, Paul says, God will send families, individuals, a strong delusion that they could even believe that an enmeshed family is okay. And God will allow people to believe that lie as long as they want to live in it instead of break out of it. I'll see you back in class again next time. Don't be late and don't skip class.